Alright gentlemen, so this video is all about the Wilfred Owen poem Futility, which is part of our study for close study of text, which is of course module B. So, like every other video, you'll be used to this format by now. I'm still going to go through it just to be sure. We look at the poem, more than likely we'll talk about the title, then we'll go through just some main points about the poem and the themes, and then we'll get to the annotations. So first things first, let me read the poem out loud to you. Move him into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once, at home whispering of fields unsown. Always it awoke him, even in France, until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clays of a cold star. Are limbs so dear achieved? Are sides full nerved, still warm, too hard to stir? Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all. So what does futility actually mean? Just the word. So it means something being pointless or useless. So what you want to think about as I'm discussing the poem and as you are looking at the poem itself, what is Owen saying is futile? What is he saying is completely pointless here? Is it war? Is it even human existence? Those questions will be answered by continuing to listen. So, some general points about the poem. The poem was actually inspired by an actual event. Let's see if I can use actual again in another sentence, because I just did it twice in one and that was really weird. So in 1979, one of Owen's men froze to death. The soldiers attempt to revive him using the sun in the poem. It takes the form of a short, elegiac lyric. The length of the sonnet, though not structured as one, being divided into 7 stanzas. Okay, so you might look at it and go, oh, 14 lines, sonnet, boom, yes, awesome. It's not a sonnet, okay? So an elegy is something used to mourn someone after their death, which is what this poem is doing. So the themes include the pointless nature of war, the reality of war, and the pointless nature of all life. Now to the annotations. First one I'm going to talk about is the opening word, move, which is an imperative, okay? It's present tense, it's happening right now, okay? So something's happening now, we need to change this now, okay? So we look at gently into its touch. It's the first example of the sun being personified. It's not the only time the sun will be personified, alright? And that continues throughout the poem, sorry. So gently its touch awoke him once. So the sun's touch, obviously the sun can't touch you, otherwise you end up dead. The touch of the sun awoke this boy once, okay? So this idea also we have is the use of enjambment. Enjambment. Incomplete lines where meaning continues into the next line. It creates this tension. We really don't know what's going on. Next thing I want to talk about are the long vowels of home and unsown. Using assonance, of course, that creates a nostalgic feel. Okay, but that changes when we get this further into the poem. Fields unsown is a metaphor. It emphasizes the boy's youth, okay? So it can refer to the idea of fields. Actually, this boy could be a farmer, but if we look deeper into it, unsown fields is to do with women that he has not yet had the opportunity to plant his seed in, shall we say. Alright? We look at this adverb always as the next thing. It suggests that the sun had never failed to wake him, okay? So when the sun comes up, this guy's awake, alright? Even when he was away in the war in France. So next page, we have until this morning. Suggests that something has changed, and that's through the use of a conjunction. Snow itself, when we think of snow, the normal connotation is death, okay? The rhyme is used to add to the oral nature of the poem. And again, this idea of personification of the sun. Okay, it should be able to wake the sun. It's a positive connotation at this point. The kind old sun will know. Alright, that same positivity does not continue through, and we will see that as we move through this video. So this one has a lot to it, guys, so just bear with me, and you'll see a lot of different things here and a lot of different ideas. Think. So we've got again another present tense imperative verb used. It's an instruction not just for the soldiers, but for us as the responder. It is the sun. It shows the power of the sun. So think how the sun is able to make plants grow. The sun is personified. It doesn't actually wake up the seeds. Yeah. It doesn't wake up the seeds. It's just, again, the example of personification. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. So seeds and clay are actually, so seeds is part of the biblical illusion that is used to show the sun's power. So not only does the sun awake plants, it also awoke people. Alright, so the clays of a cold star referring to Earth. So by using a biblical illusion, Owen is questioning religion. Why does it exist if people die? So clay, like I said, is a metaphor for us as people, and that comes from Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the ground of the dust. Sorry, let me reread that. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. So he was using the clay of the earth to create us humans. Okay. Next thing I want to discuss is the adjectives. So dear achieved and full nerved means it sounds like this bloke's in good health. Alright? Before he froze to death. So we've got these questions. Too hard to stir. So our limbs so dear achieved. Our sides full nerved, still warm, too hard to stir. So it's questioning, this guy's in good health. Why won't you wake him, son? Why don't you have the power to do that? You made us humans grow. Why can't you wake this man now? And we've got another question here. Was it for this the clay grew tall? So again, that idea that we are the clay in the metaphor, and he's questioning the purpose of life. Okay? Was this the point of this young man's life? Was his sole purpose in life to grow up, to die, frozen to death on the battlefield? And these are the final two lines of the poem. It starts with an exclamation of "Oh!" The persona has realized that nothing will change, and this sadness and despair creeps into the poem. Alright, so just defining some of the words here. Fatuous is silly or pointless, and toil, we would know from our national anthem, is work. Okay, so this is again personification of the sun. This time it's a negative personification of it. It's saying your pointless work, your pointless sunbeams aren't doing anything for this young man. Okay, so we've got this final line, which is, what's the point of Earth? Earth is personified here. Alright, Earth sleep. Earth doesn't actually sleep. It's a form of personification in this metaphor as well. So what's the point of the Earth? And what's the point for us humans as well? So as you can see, Owen's using this personification of the sun. He's using this idea of the futility of war throughout the poem. So that pointless nature of war and the pointless nature of life itself, if this is how young men die. So think about those things. Think about how the personification of the sun changes throughout the poem. And think, is there any other techniques that I may have missed that you've found as you've been listening to this and reading through the poem? Thank you, gentlemen. I'll see you in class.